Welcome to the Breathe Believe podcast show where I'm your host, Bree, and I am so excited to talk to you about, well, why not work? So, like I said, on this podcast, we talk about limiting beliefs and really just limited ideas that hold us freaking stuck in ruts and in routines and habits that no longer actually serve us, but we stay in these patterns anyways. And so we're going to talk about work. How many freaking times have you heard someone say, it's not about the money? And you actually hear it when a conversation gets brought up. And I remember this being in the sales industry for many, many years and the communication fields my entire life in my career. And oftentimes it was so funny because myself included would say, I show up, but it's not about the money. And it's so crazy because we have this idea that money, and I'm not speaking to those that are, rich and billionaires, because obviously they've got a different way of thinking, which is what we're trying to do on this podcast, right? Is really identify where our beliefs are, and not just about money, but about work. So here's what I have to say to someone who says, hey, it's not about the money and it's not about, just the compensation. And here's my response to that. If someone is genuine about that statement, awesome. Okay, I understand that money doesn't need to be the only external motivator, but I also recognize that you can't hold that belief at the same time that you're complaining about the place that you spend more than 40 hours a week at continuously, okay? So think about how damaging this is. It's not about the money, okay? So then let's ask the other questions. Why do you show up to the same place every single day at the same hour and give away 90% of your energy, if not all of your energy, to something that doesn't fulfill you? So if it's not about the money, that's only leading to the idea that you're somehow fulfilled. And if that's truth, awesome. This podcast, this episode specifically, might not apply to you, but on a deeper level, if you're not fulfilled and it's not about the money, that's a red flag indicator, red flag, alarms going off, because you're only showing up to something for the money if you're not fulfilled. And then you have a belief about money, or you have an identity belief that says, if I'm showing up to a place that doesn't fulfill me and it's not about the bills, then what the heck is it for? Because here's the serious, this is so dangerous. This actually excites me and pisses me off, and super passionate about it. If you're living a lifestyle that you require allows you to check out on the weekends, right? Like we hit Monday, happy Monday. We roll through Tuesday and then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And you're super stoked to get to the weekend so that you can do nothing more than escape the misery that you live Monday through Friday. I don't know where we believed the idea that work was supposed to be miserable and exhausting and stressed out and so just yucky, because here's the truth. If you're going to a job every single week that doesn't fulfill you and it's not about the money, and you're already bypassing actually being engaged at your job, think about it. If you choose not to engage in the hours you spend in your workforce, and if we just do basic logical math, at least 40 hours a week, and your habit loop is to check out and to be miserable and to complain and to nag and to whine and to, just be so negative in this Eeyore energy, and it's not about the money, I think it's really sad, because then when the weekend hits, you're almost living for, it's crazy because you're already checked out, but you're living for the weekend to allow you to check out even more, so that when Monday hits, you're going right back into the same pattern, and the perpetuating damage that does to something. If it's mundane and it's not inspiring, I get it. There's a different level of consciousness that says, there's one person who believes, well, duh, work pays my bills, and I have to eat, and I have to provide for my kids, and I have to do all these things. And I'm not disagreeing with you. There's responsibility. I'm challenging the way that you think that your current reality and your current workforce and your current job is the only option that you have. Because to be honest, if it's not about the money, then you can only hold that statement if you're fulfilled. And what I'm finding out is that it's not even about the money half as much as people say it is. And the person that says it is about the money isn't the one making it either. So it's really fascinating to get to the root of what actually the issue is, because here's the truth. If it's not about the money and you feel really fulfilled and you really feel like you're on purpose, then the money is actually a byproduct of your happiness. Like, you can't push money away from someone that's content, that's serving, that's happy, that's aligned, that's fulfilled, that's inspired. Do you know what kind of freaking charisma that person draws to them when they're doing things that are intentional? Versus the employee or the person that walks into a workforce and is like, I have to go to this job and da-da-da. And here's the truth. Here's the freaking truth about it, okay? I know that some mentalities, again, I used to have the mentality many years ago that someone was dragging me into that building when it was me that chose to show up every freaking single day. So what do you do when you realize that you're not fulfilled? Well, okay, we should probably look at that and find out what inspires you and fulfills you. But on the other hand, what I really want to get at is the simple line that we use as an escape to deny the desire that we all have, which is to be abundant and have a freaking lot of money. Because here's the truth about that. What if money wasn't an energy? And I know that's contradicting to a lot of places out there that say money is energy and you've got to feel it. And I believe all of that. However, let's just look at two other perspectives. What if money was just a measurement? What if money wasn't an illusional hard thing to figure out? What if money was just a measurement of what value you gave another human being, and then the money was the measurement that they were willing to pay you based off the value that you delivered? Okay, so that's one perspective of money. The second perspective of money, what if money doesn't make you evil? Because I would believe that you would only say the words, it's not about the money, if you had a belief to the money that was negative, right? Like, how many times do you meet someone and they're like, hey, I work here, and they're like, why? And how many times do you hear them say, oh, well, no, it's not about the money. It's not about the money, right? It's like the first thing that most people push away. It's so interesting. What if money was an amplifier? And what if money just amplified the person that you already were? So maybe money doesn't change you, but you change the way that it amplifies your personality. So for example, if you're already someone that gives 10% on the dollar and you believe in charity and you're already donating, don't you think having more money is going to amplify the value system that you already have, which is service? Versus someone who's always trying to pull a quick one over your head and, steal or cheat or lie, whatever beliefs you have about money. When they get more money of that, are they just not being exposed or amplified to the personality or their core value that they already had? Like, money isn't what is the root of all evil. However, you walk into workforces these days and people are convinced that talking about the money is somehow like this taboo thing. And it's crazy because it should be about the money. That's my point of this episode. It should and can be about it. And if you have desires to make it, then why not just allow that to be truthful? And if you're not fulfilled, why not keep your current job if that's what you have to do to, pay your bills and support your family right now? And why not be open to the possibility that you're allowed to keep your options open at all times? See, the problem that I had growing up is that I had a lot of people telling me how to do business and how to, grow in success. And what's interesting is that I was raised in an employee mentality family. Like, you just went to school and you just got good grades so that you could get a good fill in the blank job. And there's nothing wrong with that structure unless there is. And that is, if you're just following the structure and the blueprint that you were given, and you're someone trying to get out of that blueprint, then you're going to have to throw away the thinking behind the blueprint, which is, okay, so say you're an entrepreneur or you're going to be a business owner, you no longer get to keep the old mentality of trading time for money, because you see in an environment that is supported by an employee mentality, then you have to trade your time for the dollar versus other ways of thinking. And that's the craziest part of this belief system that we're working on is that we can trade in at any time the old beliefs that were given to us. We can trade in the belief about money. We can trade in the belief about our job. We can trade in the belief that somehow talking about money is wrong, or even the belief that we just have to do things that are miserable. Like, I never bought into that at a very young age. I never understood why someone who values family, for example, has to leave their family, who never gets to see their family, who always has to work, like 3 jobs. And, they have on the outside the boat and the toys and the cars and the, 3-story house and all the things. And at the same time that they value the family, they're also never around their family. And so I learned, like many other people, that in order to have success, it meant sacrifice. And so I tied the two together, not knowing that I would purposely self-sabotage success in the workforce because I wasn't willing to sacrifice what I actually wanted, because I believed that success on the outside looked good, but I didn't want to sacrifice what I learned at a young age, which was family. I had a dad that ran multiple businesses, super successful, had all the money, and the exchange for that was, at a young age, here's your toys and your rich fancy things, and you're lucky if you see me for the next couple of months. And that just didn't make any sense to me. It absolutely made no sense. Because you're in one hand having all of the things and then having no time to enjoy the things. And so then you have to look at, okay, what are my values? Because we're really not talking about work and money, because underneath both of those things are values. If you're fulfilled, then you'll do things in your daily ritual or spend time in your day in places, including your job, in environments around people that fulfill your value. Because if you don't, then you're not fulfilled. And when you're not fulfilled, it's really hard to focus on anyone but yourself, because you're not able to produce value for someone else. And when you're not in the service of someone else and giving value in some way, whether it's through a merchant company or a sales company or a car salesman, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you're not going to be able to produce more revenue, which is just more value, right? Because here's the thing. We all want the same thing, and we all want to feel successful, and we all want to feel fulfilled, and we all want to feel these things, but we have this illusion that it will happen when, and we've talked about this a couple of times previous episodes. So really what I want you guys to identify is, where am I spending most of my time, which probably is work. And if you're walking into a place that doesn't inspire you and light you up and fire you up and charge you and energize you and feed you and make you want to become better every single day, I would caution you not to complain about your job half as much as looking at what part you play in that, first of all. And then if you're going to say the words out loud to anyone ever again that it's not about the money, then you better freaking be fulfilled, because you can't hold both sentences and there still be truth. Hey, it's not about the money, and I'm like super miserable here and I hate my life. Like, have you ever talked to someone who's constantly miserable but also can't do anything or won't do anything about it? The naysayers and the complainers, and, their life's horrible. And we've all been there. We've all been guilty at that version of us at some point. But we get to be the people that make decisions. And so I want to leave you with this really empowering statement, which is, let it be about the money. And let it be a good thing to desire more of it, because, again, we'll talk about all of these beliefs later when there's many, many hours for that. However, if money is an amplifier and it amplifies the personality and the good that you already are, and money is just a vehicle, and money allows you to be expressed to your fullest, wouldn't we all want to have more of that? And would we ever deny wanting to be our fullest expression? No. Like, the only reason we say those things is because we don't want to be judged as someone who's narcissistic or egotistical or just desires materialism. But what you realize when you start working on your money beliefs is that spirituality and the materialism world, like, they're not two separate things. It's the same thing. It goes back to the person who's fulfilled, who's not coming from a place of, I just want the money only, but because they're fulfilled and because they're aligned, they have this charisma and they have this light and they're freaking energized. And money loves going to those people. Have you ever recognized when someone has a lot of money, they just feel good and they talk like they're good. And then on the flip side of that, you got someone who's got a lot of money and they're not fulfilled and you don't get the same energy from them, right? They're miserable. They're working late hours. They never see their family. And the list goes on. So you've got a lot of different polarities in good and bad and right and wrong. And well, we don't want to be like our parents, but we do. And we want to start a business, but we've got this employee mindset, or we are the employee, but we act like we're a victim and someone's making us show up. It's crazy. So I challenge you to look at where you're spending all of your energy. And if you're going to continue to work for somebody, maybe shift the one sentence inside of yourself that says, I do not work for this place. I do work for them. And that's a huge paradigm shift. So I'm going to say that again. You don't work for them. You do work for them. So if you got to take back your own value and you got to decide what you were worth, and you got to be aligned and inspired and have it all and meet your desire to have money and enjoy the 40 or 50 hours that you put into your soul's work, then wouldn't it be more exciting to recognize that you choose where you get to serve and where you get to put energy, so that if you really truly do believe money is energy, then it just is a match, versus you being in the negative and you desire this positive outcome. You've got to be a match for it. And then the other idea, of course, which is money is just going to be a vehicle. It's going to be the measurement in which you're giving to other people. So really, if you say that you want more money, you've got to figure out where you're going to show up and where you're going to serve other people, so that money can just be the measurement of your product, of your service, of your time, of your effort. And don't let someone else dictate that for you, because you actually have a lot of choice in the belief systems that you get to operate in. And I'm saying there is a better way. There is a way to be inspired when Monday freaking hits and you go to bed and you're excited and you're lit and you're live. I loved my job. I loved a lot of the things that I did. And a lot of people, I feel, are going through different transitions, and at some point in your life, you wonder and you ask the question, is this where I want to be for the rest of my life? And then you start asking deeper questions like, maybe it's not what I want, and maybe there are other possibilities, and maybe I can inspire someone to make a move. And so what I'm telling you going through it is there is so much possibility out there in the realm for you if you'll allow for your consciousness to be expanded and realize that there are amazing opportunities when you just decide that you're no longer going to eat dog crap every day. You're no longer going to go to a job that doesn't inspire you, and it's going to be scary. I did it. I jumped off the freaking cliff that everyone told me not to do after nearly 10 years. And here's the reality. I am so much happier now not knowing what I knew back then, right? Because we get into these habits and routines. And well, when you worked at a place for freaking 10 years, do you not start getting into this like kind of lazy slump? You start doing the same things that you do because it's Monday and you've got a routine and habit, and you've got all the things set up. And I'm saying, just wake up just a little bit, because time's going by with or without you. And so what we're going to do instead is we're going to make sure that we're fulfilled if it's really not about the money. And then we'll identify the real truth, which is it's of course it's about the money, because money is just a way for us to give and express. And it's a way for us to be at our fullest capacity. And really, accept your humanness. That's cool. But freaking own your divinity too. Like, if you think you're here to pay bills and just die, you are crazy. You are crazy if you're believing the system that says we're here to work and to be miserable and stressed out and burnt out and to pay our bills and barely make it, survive, and then die. Like, that is not the way for life for me. So if you have anything that's came up and has triggered you, or you're like, wow, I didn't know I believed that, or wow, you're right, I do say it's not about the money and I'm not fulfilled, or wow, like I never thought money could do that, or maybe I'll start looking into my talents and my gifts so I can actually serve the world at my fullest capacity. Like, I'm excited because things happen when you spend, again, most of your work week doing things that make you excited, because then you come home and you get to be a better version of you instead of leaving your precious family and then coming home and giving them the worst version of you. Like, that's not what we want, right? So we just have to take our choice back. So I'm going to leave you with this. Happy freaking Monday. Let's have an amazing week, and I'll see you next Monday. Woo!